one of my favorite disciples. Maybe it's because I kind of find myself in him, which is the impulsive, zealous, always talking at times without thinking, impetuous Peter. So go to John 21. John 21. We're going to pick it up. What's happening here, I'm going to create here the foundation. Peter, he has denied Jesus 3 times. Remember, Jesus puts them all together there in that table, and he's talking about the events that are going to happen, that he's going to be crucified. And he looks at Peter and says, "You're going to deny me 3 times." And Peter says, "Never. These might deny you, but me, never me." And Jesus is like, "I'm telling you, you're going to do it, but okay." Surely, and sure enough, he does betray Jesus, and he feels awful about it. Jesus dies. They don't know that he has yet resurrected. They haven't seen him. And so what happens, they are just a sad bunch. They're so upset. Jesus died. Now what? They're frustrated. And so Peter says, "Let's just go fishing, because fishing is what we do best." They go fishing. They spent all night fishing. They didn't catch any fish. All of a sudden, they see a figure on the shore, and the figure yells out, "Hey, have you guys caught any fish?" And they're like, "Oh, the question we did not want to answer. No, strange man, you didn't even introduce yourself. We don't even know who you are, what your name is. We didn't catch any fish." So now this man says, "Well, cast it on the right side." If I were the disciples, I'd say, "Okay, look, dude, we know how to fish. We've done it all our lives. We've been here all night long. Who are you to tell us to fish on the right side?" But I truly think that they were just so exhausted and so tired that they're like, "Let's just entertain this guy so that we can get out of here." So they cast it on the right side. But then when they're going to lift up this net, there are so many fish that they could barely lift it up. Immediately, John, the beloved disciple, he looks and he says, "That's Jesus." Well, Peter, obviously, because he has no self-control and because he's always jumping the gun, he just dives into the water. He is just beelining straight to Jesus. When he realizes, oh, they need my help, he turns around, right? He helps them bring the boat to shore. And when he's on the shore there with Jesus, Jesus has already made them breakfast, and they're sitting there around the fire. They're getting warm. It's been a long night. And Jesus, 3 times, he asked Peter the same question. Different ways, but the same question, which is, "Peter, do you love me?" And every single time that Peter was asked this question, Peter would say, "Lord, you know that I love you." "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." The 3rd time, it breaks his heart because he's like, "Man, is Jesus doubting my love for him? Is it because I denied him?" You see, Peter answers these 3 questions completely different than he answered the statement of, "Peter, you're going to deny me." Before, he was self-confident and really didn't think that he was going to fall into this, but now we see a completely different Peter. And I want to read this quote to you. Look at this. Before his fall, Peter was always speaking unadvisedly from the impulse of the moment. He was always ready to correct others and to express his mind before he had a clear comprehension of himself or what he had to say. But the converted Peter was very different. He retained his former fervor. He retained his former zeal. So he didn't become a completely different person, which is why do not have unrealistic expectations for your husband and for your wife, because they are not going to become you. God gave them their temperament, their personality as a gift, and he's the only one who can change it. But here's the thing. He doesn't want to change it. All he wants to do is what he did for Peter. He retained his former zeal, but the grace of Christ regulated his zeal. He was the same person, but now with the covering, the protection of the Holy Spirit. He was no longer impetuous and self-confident and self-exalted, but calm and self-possessed and teachable. He was the same Peter, but now Peter who was converted and who allowed the Holy Spirit to work through him. Does that make sense? I hope it does. And so look, I want to remind you that you are a mixture of your nature, your personality, and your character. Grab those perpetual problems. If it's a preference, take it one step further. Find the temperament of each other and then put your flexible and inflexible areas. If it's a gridlock problem, be a dream detective. If it isn't a gridlock problem, be a dream detective. Find out each other's dreams. Find out each other's wishes. And what about, Amanda, if It's a flaw. It's a personality flaw. Well, remember, only Jesus can change that.